Judge Frank Caprio was preparing for retirement. But fate had other plans. Because this case was unlike any other. And someone, powerful, hidden, wanted him silent. Frank Caprio sat on the front porch of his home, sipping his morning coffee. The sea breeze from Rhode Island carried a gentle chill, ruffling the pages of the newspaper folded beside him. After decades behind the bench, he was finally ready to step away, to trade gavels for gardening tools, verdicts for family time. But that morning, a simple envelope in his mailbox changed everything. It had no name, no return address. Just a thick manila folder inside with one line written in black marker. People vs. Sean Combs. Caprio raised an eyebrow. He'd heard of the name, of course. Sean Diddy Combs, music mogul, billionaire, philanthropist, cultural icon. But why was this on his doorstep? Why now? He opened the file. And what he found wasn't a case. It was a warning. Before the trial, a shadowed voice. That night, Caprio couldn't sleep. The documents laid out on his oak desk read like something between a conspiracy and a confession. Witnesses gone missing. Statements retracted. Investigations closed before they began. Pages marked, confidential, buried, do not pursue. At the top of it all, a handwritten note by a federal prosecutor. Judge Caprio. This file holds no justice. Only silenced voices, erased records, and purchased decisions. If you still believe in the law, this is your case. Caprio closed the folder, staring at the wall of accolades in his study. The medals. The degrees. The photos of him swearing in young lawyers. He asked himself, do I still believe in the law? His answer came with the sunrise. Why Caprio? By morning, he called in a favor. Walter Grady, former FBI, longtime friend, answered on the second ring. Walter, why me? Caprio asked. Why now? Walter didn't pause. Because you still care, Frank. Because you still believe there's such a thing as right and wrong. This isn't about Diddy. He's just the surface. The real case is buried deeper. Caprio leaned back in his chair, realizing something chilling. This wasn't just a celebrity scandal. It was a cover-up that stretched far beyond the courtroom. The courtroom returned. Despite being retired, Caprio was officially summoned to preside over one last case. The courtroom was filled with reporters, attorneys, and Diddy's entourage. And in the back, a lone woman held a photo in her trembling hands, Diddy with his arm around a teenage girl. Caprio noticed her, even from afar. She mouthed one phrase. They want to silence me. Minutes before the hearing, Caprio received another envelope, slipped under his chamber door. Judge, close this case quietly. Insufficient evidence is enough. Stay retired. There was no signature. But the seal on the envelope. The Department of Justice. The first shockwave. The first witness was brought forward, her voice disguised, her face hidden. Once an assistant at Diddy's record label, now just another silenced figure. Why are you hiding your identity? Caprio asked. Because people disappear, Your Honor, she said. But I'll speak. Because you're listening. The courtroom fell into silence. The threat. That night, Caprio received a voicemail. Judge Caprio, enjoy your retirement, while you still can. But Caprio didn't flinch. He opened the file again. Among the final pages, he found a document labeled Confidential Testimony, Security Staff Statement. It wasn't supposed to happen that night, it read. No one was supposed to talk. Money was enough. Fear handled the rest. The media storm. Overnight, media channels exploded with opinions. Is Caprio damaging his legacy? Why is a retired judge stirring old secrets? Caprio versus the system. But Caprio said nothing. Not to cameras. Not to journalists. He just showed up for court again the next morning. Because some cases choose you. Ending of episode 1. As he stood behind the bench, preparing for the second hearing, Caprio looked out at the people. He wasn't just trying a man. He was confronting an empire of silence. Coming next. Episode 2, The Warning to Caprio. When justice becomes a risk, truth becomes a target, the warning to Caprio. The first hearing was seismic. The courtroom, packed with tension, barely contained the weight of what had just begun. Caprio, with decades of experience behind him, knew the look in a witness's eyes when truth trembled at the edge of their lips. This wasn't just about Diddy. Not anymore. This was about who would dare speak, and who would dare silence them. Balance scale 2 minutes in, a visitor in the shadows. The courthouse was nearly empty the next morning when Caprio arrived early. Before entering his chambers, he noticed a figure in the hallway, a man in a dark coat, leaning against the wall. "Judge Caprio," the man said without making eye contact, "they're watching you." Caprio paused. "Who are you?" The man handed him a folded piece of paper and walked away. Written on it. Check the file again. Page 47 wasn't in the original. Someone wants it there. Caprio rushed into his office, opened the file again, and there it was. A page he hadn't seen before. It referenced an old closed case, connected to a nightclub fire in 2003. Victims, 9. Cause, never proven. One name linked to the ownership, SC. Man Detective 4 minutes in, Walter's second call. He called Walter Grady again. "I found something. Someone's planting pages in the file." Walter's voice was hushed. "That's a message, Frank. They're not just watching. They're guiding." "Guiding what?" Caprio asked. "Your fall. Card index dividers 6 minutes in, Echo returns." Echo, the masked witness from the first trial, returned under higher security. She had something else to say. "I didn't tell you everything," she said. "Because I was afraid. But now, they came to my sister's house." 8 minutes in, the disappearance. The next morning, Caprio asked for Echo's protection to be extended. But the officer responsible never showed up. By noon, Echo was gone. No cameras. No trace. Just a file on Caprio's desk with a note. "Some stories end early. Let this one." Caprio clenched the file. Behind him, a window shattered from a thrown rock. Wrapped around it, a note. "You're not just risking your legacy. You're risking everything." Television 10 minutes in, Public Division. The media turned Caprio into a question mark. Has Caprio lost it? Why is a retired judge stirring federal fires? Caprio versus DOJ, what's the real agenda? But Caprio wasn't concerned with questions. He was following the answers. Telephone receiver 12 minutes in, the call that changed everything. It came at 3:41 a.m. No caller ID. A male voice. "Judge Caprio, you want to know the truth? Follow the money. Start with the charity funds. Then ask why the audits vanished." Caprio scribbled down every word. The next day, he demanded access to sealed financial records of Diddy's philanthropic foundations. Blocked. Then unblocked. Then blocked again. A pattern. Puzzle piece 14 minutes in, the puzzle sharpens. In his chambers, Caprio connected the dots. Nightclub fire. Disappearing witnesses. Charity accounts. Burnt feathers. Missing files. Planted documents. A structure appeared. This wasn't chaos. It was a design. Stop sign 16 minutes in, the final warning. A letter arrived without a stamp. Inside. Your next move defines you. Speak, and vanish. Or retire peacefully, and be remembered. Caprio folded the letter. He didn't shred it. He didn't lock it away. He placed it, open, on the courtroom bench. End of episode 2. As Caprio entered the courtroom the next day, a hush fell over the audience. His eyes, once full of warmth, now carried fire. He wasn't chasing justice anymore. He was chasing the truth. Coming next. Episode 3, The Face of Justice or the Silenced Voice. Be careful. They're turning the public against you. Caprio looked out the courtroom window. Signs read. This isn't justice. Retire now. Caprio equals chaos. He turned back to the bench. And stayed silent. Open file folder 10 minutes in, the final revelation. That afternoon, an anonymous package arrived. Contents. A USB stick. A hand-drawn map. A torn photograph of a young woman standing beside a man labeled only X. Caprio inserted the USB. The files contained audio recordings, internal memos, a contract of silence signed by 2 federal agents and a media executive. At the center of it all, a single clause. Caprio is never to be informed. If discovered, discredit and suppress. Police car light 12 minutes in, national alert. That night, Caprio went on live television. Not for an interview, but to read a statement. I have been threatened, manipulated, and warned. But I still believe in the power of truth. This case is no longer about one man, it is about how far silence can stretch before it becomes a weapon. The broadcast went viral in under an hour. Support. Hatred. Debate. But no one was indifferent. Firecracker 14 minutes in, the collapse. Within 24 hours. 3 DOJ officials resigned. 2 news anchors suspended for conflict of interest. A federal building in D.C. raided under sealed orders. Caprio received one final message, typed, and signed. You've woken a giant. Now watch where it steps. Stop sign 16 minutes in, the final judgment. In the final hearing, the courtroom was so packed that people stood in the aisles. Caprio looked to the crowd. Sometimes, he began, justice wears a robe. And sometimes, it wears scars. He turned to the defendant's seat. Empty. Sean Combs had disappeared. But the case continued. Because truth doesn't vanish. End of episode 3. And perhaps, the beginning of something far greater. Justice, once awakened, doesn't sleep. It waits. And when it rises, it remembers who tried to bury it.